Chairman Carr, you are not reinvigorating the public interest standard. You are weaponizing the public interest standard. That is what the Carr FCC is doing every single day. Behind me are your past tweets declaring your commitment to the First Amendment. You even defended political satire, saying in 2022, it challenges those in power, and that's why people in influential positions have always targeted it for censorship. That's why your threats against ABC and Disney over Jimmy Kimmel's political monologue were so outrageous. And here's what you said. In September of 2025, as the chairman of the FCC, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct or take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead. Now, that statement was roundly condemned across the political spectrum. Chairman Cruz called it dangerous as hell. Chairman Carr, do you regret making that statement, yes or no?
Senator Markey, thank you for the question. My job is to enforce the law as passed by Congress. That includes a public interest standard, and broadcast TV is fundamentally different than any other media. We have a news distortion rule.
Do you regret making that statement?
Senator, my job is to enforce the law.
So you don't regret making that statement? Well, that's a refusal to take accountability for your language, for your use, your abuse of power. You will not say that you made a mistake. For example, in your response to my oversight letter in September on the Kimmel incident, you repeatedly stated that the media companies made their own decisions in preempting and suspending Kimmel. You seem to think that your words, the most powerful communications regulator in America, especially your threats, don't matter. So just to be clear, your position is that your mafia threats had nothing to do with Nexstar and Sinclair and Disney's decisions to preempt and suspend Kimmel. Is that your position? Is that your point, that you had nothing to do with the suspension of Kimmel?
Senator, if you look at the evidence, the express statements by every single company involved, from Nexstar to Sinclair to Disney, as recently as last week, is that they made these business decisions on their own. The record is clear on this.
And again, you're refusing to take accountability for your own words. You intimidate the companies. They do what you want. And then you say, well, it was up to them. You're the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission. Actually, you're now the chairman of the Federal Censorship Commission. And these broadcasters, they feel that censorship. You have broad authority over the media industry, especially broadcasters. Your words and actions matter. Now I'm going to give you another chance to take accountability for your actions. In 2022, you said, quote, a newsroom's decision about what stories to cover and how to frame them should be beyond the reach of any government official not targeted by them, by government officials. Do you stand by that statement?
This was a letter written by House Democrats to cable companies, pressuring them to drop Fox News, OAN, and Newsmax simply because those Democrats thought they were right-wing.
Do you stand by your statement?
Yes, I do. I think that's inappropriate what the Democrats did there.
Okay, good. I just want to get your own views out here on the record for people to hear. So in February, under your leadership, the Federal Communications Commission opened an investigation into a San Francisco radio station over its coverage of a federal immigration raid. A FCC investigation is a big deal for a local station. In a worst-case scenario, the FCC could shut down the station by revoking its license. In fact, you have repeatedly suggested over the past year that the FCC could revoke station licenses. Yet this investigation was based solely on the news content of the radio station's coverage of an immigration raid. I have the entire news statement that they put out that day. This happens every day, everywhere across the country for broadcast journalists. This investigation was based solely on this very brief statement that is in everyday coverage. And I have that transcript. And the anchor was literally reporting on the information that was released by the mayor, by the local city council member, and a community group. So you're telling me that reporting on statements from public officials and a community group is grounds for an FCC investigation?
So the concern there in the report was that there may have been interference with lawful ICE operations, and so we were asking questions about what happened. This was a period of time, remember, when ICE agents were being attacked, their locations, undercover locations were being disclosed.
There is nothing in here that discloses anything. There's no risk to anyone except...
And they can provide that to us.
No, the risk that it's posed here is to you, to the broadcast journalist coverage. That's what really happened. The news journalists were just covering an important news story. And some conservatives were upset by the coverage. So you use your power as FCC chair to hang a sword of Damocles over a local radio station's head. And that's precisely what you warned about in 2022, the government targeting a newsroom's editorial decision. Well, guess what happened? The station demoted the anchor who first read that news report over the air and pulled back on his political coverage. You got what you wanted. One former journalist at the station said, chilling effect does not begin to describe the neutering of our political coverage. That's what you wanted, that's what you got, but it affected stations everywhere. So just let me say again, the neutering of our political coverage, this is government censorship, plain and simple. Was it a mistake in retrospect for you to say that, to instigate a investigation of that San Francisco radio station? Was that a mistake?
Senator, if broadcasters understand, perhaps the first time in years, that they're going to be held accountable to the public interest, to broadcast hoax rules, to the news distortion policy, I think that's a good thing. I don't have a poster board, but listen, in 2018, you signed this letter right here to the FCC. You signed a letter to the FCC asking us to investigate Sinclair's news activities. You said investigate Sinclair's news activities. And you know what happened after that? Over 227 licenses were up for renewal or due during the Biden years. Almost none of them were renewed after your letter. Your letter produced the results that you were seeking.
Chairman Carr.
Madam Chair.
Well, you're well over your time here. So,
a lot of it is because
well, no, it's not, because I looked at the clock and you were already 2 minutes over.
All right, so I'll just finish, Madam Chair. He is turning the Federal Communications Commission into the Federal Censorship Commission. It's a betrayal of the FCC's mission. You should resign, Mr. Chairman. You are creating a chilling effect
Do you
on
regret sending us a letter in
broadcast
2018 asking the
Markey,
FCC
please.
to investigate
There's a lot of people on this
Sinclair's
committee.
news activities?